Hello and welcome again to the Pastor Study. I'm Ray Burnett, and I'm delighted that you could take a few minutes out of your day to spend it with us here. You know, the consequences of a decision sometimes will weigh with us and stay with us for a lifetime. You know, Solomon in his cautions and his warning that he's giving to us in chapter 6, he is telling us about here at this passage, two different times of those consequences. First, he says, you know what? That individual who goes out there and steals, he says, you know what? People are going to be a little bit of understanding if the person steals because of a deep, deep need. However, he tells them, and he tells you and me, that when that person is caught, there'll be consequences. He said there's an expectation to pay it back 7 times over what the value of what you stole. That's a lot. But then he goes on and talks about the consequences of making a foolish decision and going in and committing adultery. He says that individual, that man, is lacking in sense. And he says the wounds of that decision are a disgrace, they're destructive, there's a reproach that will never be blotted out, and jealousy and rage comes into play in those situations. The heartache of all of that. He says, you know what? When you do that, you can't buy forgiveness from the injured party. No amount of ransom will ever repay the damage that is done. There are just things that cannot be undone. I've heard someone refer to Paul Harvey, and he said, you know what? Paul Harvey used to say that when a bell is rung, you cannot unring it. Well, when adultery is committed, you can't undo it. The damage is done. Yes, there is the way of forgiveness, but there always will be, lingering in the back of hearts and minds of those that have been hurt, a challenge of trusting, a challenge of really forgiving, a challenge of not wanting revenge. So the best thing to do is to not do it in the first place. If you don't want to try and unring a bell, don't ring it in the first place. If you don't want to try and undo adultery, don't commit it in the first place. Until next time in the Pastor's Study, I'm Ray Bertolet saying goodbye. May God